Originally, I supported Bernie Sanders.
I was more for Bernie.
I turned to Trump because I thought that
no matter who we got as a president, it was going to be just terrible.
Personally, I supported, out of the two nominees, Hillary.
Sometimes I was siding with Trump. Most of the time I didn't side with Hillary. She kind of sucks. But
I'm an optimist, so I think the future of America is going to be a good one, no matter what.
I think the future's going to be okay. I think, while this was an election that, sharply divided the country, at the end of the day, and this is me being the history teacher, is that, George Washington said that, even though he said this in his farewell address, that, even though, we have slight shades of differences, different religions, different backgrounds, at the end of the day, we're all American.
There's enough things good in government that usually America's in okay shape, but it's still up to the people to make sure it stays that way.
It's either nothing's going to happen and all this hype is just going to be for nothing, or something really bad is going to happen and it's going to, I don't even know.
so the future of the United States, I think that's almost impossible to say at this point.
Nothing's really going to change. Some things might get harder for people, like how they're repealing the Affordable Care Act without having a replacement for it, which that's going to kill people. It's a scary thing to think about.
Let's see what's going to happen. I think we have to, as a country, remain optimistic no matter what.
No matter what, the media didn't, I don't think it really affected the results. It did get the news out, but no matter what, I think people are going to vote for who they wanted to vote for.
I think the media did their job. The media is there to ask questions. I've read some things about how the media gave Donald Trump a lot of press. That's their job. I don't blame the media. I don't think that the media swayed the election one way or the other.
I think the media supported the bad side of both candidates more, so it brought up all of the bad that they do and how stupid they are lots of the time on Twitter and everything.
The media both played a role and also didn't play a role. I think the media's value, I think a lot of people made up their mind early on in the process, so I think the narrative that the media decided the election is somewhat false, in that if you talk to people, I think people pretty much knew that they either did or didn't like Hillary Clinton, and they did or did not like Donald Trump a year before the election. So I think the media's role in determining the outcome isn't as great as some people would like to portray it as.
I think, in my opinion, it's in terms of, being somebody who studies history, I think, the media plays a role in every election. I think it's a medium in which, the candidates are able to convey their messages.
I think media played a huge presence in this election, especially fake news, or where you're getting your news, or who you're actually trusting.
I think that a lot of the sources were very, very biased, whatever side it was. Whether it was a Hillary supporter, I think they only painted Hillary in a good light and then Trump in a terrible light. And although I can't stand Donald Trump, Hillary obviously is an angel.
Oh, the media absolutely took a very heavy role in the election. Especially social medias, because Trump had his own Twitter, and he was on Twitter every now and again. He was just arguing with Hillary over Twitter.
fake news. I feel like CNN and MSNBC have been caught with publishing some news stories that have been kind of controversial.
I saw a lot of examples of fake news. We're still talking about it. There are some fake news outlets about the recent a ban on Muslims entering the country. There was news outlets saying that a bunch of families were torn apart, and there were only a few or something. But I think there are definitely a lot of fake news outlets happening throughout the election.
I think the term fake news is an interesting one. I think it's a dangerous one. I think you can't you can't distinguish fake news from real news. I think every bit of news it all falls in the gray area. There's real news, all news can be twisted around. And once we decide some news is fake and some news is not fake, we begin to go down a path of 1984 or Brave New World or Fahrenheit 451. The best we can do is educate citizens to be critical of news, but also understand, but be critical of the people in the news.
I think the idea of fake news, it's kind of a loaded term. I think in terms of news that's out there. I mean, you can call it fake news, you can call it propaganda, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it yellow journalism. I think the media, depending on the approach that the media, certain media outlets take, they have an objective in mind, and why one camp might call it fake news, another camp might call it call it the truth. So I just think it's a matter of perspective.
I think the biggest thing that we, especially for younger people and everyone in the media, you need to be media literate. You need to be able to judge good sources, bad sources, good information, what is credible and what's not. But I think this kind of goes back to the problem we've talked about, the sensationalism and blowing things out of proportion and showing bias. You don't know who you can trust. If you've got, one network that's known for, being a certain way, well then, are they being neutral about the information they're giving you? So you have to just be very careful with that, and the more you know as a person, about those things, and the more literate you are in terms of who's covering the news and their stances and how they tend to lean, the easier you can take in the information for yourself with a grain of salt in essence.
I think my personal life won't be affected much. It is kind of upsetting that the next 4 years is a big part of my life, seeing as I'm 17, will be 21 by the time that he leaves the office.
It'll definitely put me through some emotional trauma, I think. But for me, personally, I don't know if it'll affect me too much other than college. But I think it might affect my friends a lot. Like I said before, like my friends of color, and then my friends who are a part of the LGBT community. But me personally, I think it'll really only affect my college and just having to sort of deal with somebody who discriminates against people for such trivial things all the time.
I don't really think the election will really affect me personally.
Like I said, I never was really public about who I was siding with or what my opinions were, which is I just like to keep to myself on stuff like that, because people take opinions very harshly, especially on a subject like that, where the two sides were so torn. Yeah, I definitely tried to keep to myself, so nothing like, I'm not going to lose a friend over who I'm voting for president.
I have no idea how it will affect me in my personal life. I know that financially, you hear all the time that what he said during his campaign was he wanted to take care of the middle class, but at the same time, he's a businessman and he's got businessman friends, and you got to assume he wants to take care of them as well. So who knows where that's going to go. I would say that's the biggest thing I guess I'm worried about, is taxes and finances and that kind of stuff, and where I fall into his plan. And as someone who lives in a multiracial family, with my wife being black and Mexican, she's scared about social issues as well because of him taking over. So that also scares me. You just want to think that the person that's in the White House cares about every single person in this country, and I don't think that's the case at the moment.
It'll be interesting to see what happens to women. I have a brother-in-law that's an immigrant. My niece and nephew are biracial. It makes me nervous. Do I really think anything's going to happen? No. Could it? Yeah. That makes me nervous.
So in Massachusetts, healthcare is for everyone. That's something that won't be repealed even if I stay in the state. But if I don't, birth control is a big concern of mine. I take it for medical reasons, and that's going to be a lot harder and a lot more expensive for me to afford if I move anywhere else. So.
I guess in a way it's historic. I mean, we definitely elected someone who no one really thought could run a country, and who knows if he can, probably not. But
I think it's the most historic election in the past 100 years. I feel like this election, because you had two candidates from two very different standpoints. One had very different economic policies, wanted like a very liberal government, and the other one wanted kind of a conservative government, almost like how Ronald Reagan ran his government and his the country in the 1980s. And yes, I think it's a very historic election. 2016 is probably going to go down as being one of the most historic elections. I can't remember, my mom and dad can't remember an election like this in their lifetimes.
I don't think it's historic. I think it's just one more barrier for women.
I think every election is historic. I think it's interesting. It's interesting to have a president that's never run for power, or never held office. Excuse me. I think that makes it interesting. But it's also still yet another president that's a white male. I think it's another president that is a millionaire or billionaire. I'd like to see. I wish it could be an ordinary person kind of gain power, and that we have not seen that happen really in America. Maybe Jimmy Carter, but I feel like in my lifetime I haven't seen a normal person become president, and I think that's what, man, woman, white, black. I'd love to see a normal person who is not a millionaire or billionaire become president, and I feel like that's almost impossible, and that's what I'm waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think every election is historic in its own right. I think this is historic because it's one of the few elections where, the candidate who garnered more popular votes did not win the electoral vote. So in that respect, it's historic. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's historic. If you look at, where the votes, played out, I think it's historic in that respect. Where, some states were, that traditionally go blue, they went red. So it's, if you look at, looking at it from that standpoint, yeah, it's certainly historic. I think it's historic again, also just based on a matter of perspective. Matter what the individual voters needs and wants are. I think again, it depends on whose shoes you're walking in. It's a matter of how historic it is.
I do, just because I think everyone is historic. I think this one is definitely, like I said, the campaign trail was definitely unique. It was ugly. It wasn't necessarily one that we should be proud of as a country, I don't think. But at the same time, what are people going to take from this? What's going to happen in 4 years? Are we going to make it better? Are we going to try to avoid some of these kind of crazy things that have happened this time? The name calling and whatnot? Or is this going to be, something that sticks around? And that's kind of the concerning part of anything. But as for the election itself, it's definitely historic. It's going to be, nice to be there no matter what it is. It's a unique experience for anyone.
I did not, because I'm 17.
I didn't vote because I am just a measly 17 years old. I would have given anything to vote. I go with my dad every year when he votes, just so I know what to do when I can. But yeah, I was so sad that I can't vote. And obviously we're from Massachusetts, so Hillary was gonna win, but still it would have been so incredible to be able to vote for a female president.
No, I did not vote in this election.
Did you vote? I didn't. I'm only 17. I couldn't vote.
No, I didn't vote. I'm too young.
I did, and I voted for Donald Trump, and I kind of regret it now, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Did you vote?
I did vote.
And did you vote in this election?
I did vote. It was my first year voting, and I voted for Hillary Clinton, and I'm very proud of it.
And the last question is, did you vote in this election?
Yes.
Did you vote in this election?
I did.
And then did you vote in this election?
Yes, I did.
Did you vote in this election?
Absolutely, I vote in every election.